When you love yourself enough, you stop chasing people who only see parts of you and start attracting those who recognize your whole being. That's not just a feel-good quote. It's a truth many ignore until they're exhausted, heartbroken, or wondering why love always feels like a one-sided effort. This video is for the version of you that's ready to stop begging for love and start becoming the person love is drawn to, naturally, quietly, and deeply. Because when self-worth is your foundation, you don't just find love. You filter it. You welcome it, without losing yourself in the process. Everything we'll explore here is not only honest, but also practical. These insights are meant to stay with you, to be revisited often and practiced daily. So listen more than once if it resonates, not because it's poetic, but because repetition is how wisdom becomes second nature. If this message already speaks to something inside you, go ahead and subscribe now. Not just to follow, but to commit to your growth. And in the comments, just write, "I'm on this journey too." Simple, powerful, and who knows, someone who needs it might read your words and feel a little less alone. 1. Love rooted in emptiness is not love. There's a kind of love that disguises itself so well, many never notice. It's not love at all. It's survival. It doesn't come with peace or freedom, but with tension and silent panic. You're always the one reaching out first, the one over-explaining, apologizing for things you didn't do, shrinking yourself just to keep the connection alive. And yet, despite all that effort, you still feel unseen, unheard, and strangely lonely in the presence of someone you call partner. This isn't love. It's emotional bargaining, a subtle, persistent hope that if you give enough, care enough, prove yourself enough, maybe then someone will stay. But the more you give from a place of emptiness, the less it fills you, because love given from lack cannot nourish. It only drains. Think of it like walking into a kitchen after starving for days. You don't choose what feeds you. You grab the first thing you see, expired, artificial, unsatisfying. Not because you want it, but because you need something, anything, to silence the ache. That's what love rooted in emptiness looks like. Frantic, impulsive, ungrounded. You're not connecting, you're craving, you're not choosing, you're clinging. This is why so many relationships today feel anxious and fragile. They're not built on mutual understanding, but on silent contracts of emotional survival. And when one person stops feeding that hunger, the other collapses. Not because of heartbreak, but because their sense of self was tied entirely to that connection. The Stoics understood this dilemma well, though they spoke in quieter, steadier terms. They taught that pain rarely comes from events themselves, but from our interpretation of them. We mistake longing for love and possession for closeness. We tell ourselves that needing someone desperately must mean they're meant for us. But often that desperation is simply a signal that we haven't yet learned to hold ourselves, that we're hoping someone else will do the emotional heavy lifting we were never taught to do. And here's the hard truth. No one can carry the weight of your unhealed heart without eventually stumbling. When love becomes your only mirror for self-worth, even genuine care from another person can't feel safe. You'll question it, sabotage it, or demand more of it than anyone can sustainably give. Not because you're flawed, but because you're empty. And emptiness always echoes louder than presence. True love, the kind that feels calm, mutual, and deeply connected, doesn't arrive when you're starving. It arrives when you're fed, when you're no longer chasing love to fill a void, but sharing it because you have enough to give. This kind of love doesn't come with constant reassurance or emotional highs and lows. It feels steady. It doesn't trigger your fears. It meets your truth. But to get there, you have to stop seeing love as a rescue mission. You have to stop calling emotional dependency fate. And most importantly, you have to stop negotiating your value just to feel chosen. Real love, the one that stays, grows, and builds a life with you, only begins to appear when you stop searching for someone to complete you and start becoming someone who doesn't need completing. When love is no longer a replacement for self-worth, but an extension of it, everything changes. You stop accepting crumbs because you've tasted wholeness. You stop chasing validation because you already feel enough. And you stop fearing loss because nothing essential to your growth can ever be taken from you. That is the moment when love, the real kind, walks in, not to save you, but to walk beside you. 2. You don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. It's easy to believe that if you want something badly enough, life will eventually bring it to you. Many of us grow up thinking that desiring love, dreaming of a healthy relationship, or hoping for someone who understands us is enough. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Your relationships are rarely shaped by what you say you're looking for. They're shaped by the energy you emit, the beliefs you carry, and the unspoken stories you keep repeating in your mind. That's why some people end up dating the same kind of partner over and over, even after promising themselves they won't. The patterns keep repeating, not because you're cursed or unlucky, but because your inner world is broadcasting signals that invite in people who match your current state, not your wishful thinking. And if, deep down, you still believe you're not enough, or that love always has to hurt a little, that's the kind of love that will show up. I remember talking with a friend who said, "It's like every girl I date is emotionally unavailable. It's a pattern, man." He laughed it off, but when I asked him, "When was the last time you were emotionally available, even to yourself?" his smile faded. He thought about it. Maybe never. And that's the answer most people don't want to see. Because it's easier to blame timing, apps, or bad luck than to admit you've been building relationships from a place of misalignment. Wanting love isn't wrong. Longing for a meaningful connection is human. But wanting it without doing the work to align your inner world is like tuning your radio to the wrong frequency and wondering why you only hear static. Life doesn't listen to your words. It listens to your energy. If your mind is cluttered with fear, doubt, and desperation, then love that arrives will only reflect those same qualities. That's why it feels chaotic. That's why it never lasts. The Stoics had a name for this kind of confusion: disordered desire. They believed that inner stillness, not frantic striving, is the path to clarity. You don't become magnetic by pushing harder. You become magnetic by becoming clear. When you let go of craving, when you focus instead on self-respect, calm living, and daily integrity, something inside shifts. You stop chasing things that don't belong to you. You stop trying to fix people who can't even show up for themselves. You stop begging for attention that you no longer need to survive. And in that stillness, something powerful happens. You begin to attract not what your ego wants, but what your soul is ready for. Think of a mirror. If the surface is cracked or foggy, the reflection is distorted. No matter how beautiful the world is outside, you won't see it clearly until you polish what's within. The same goes for love. Until you face your shadows, confront your insecurities, and choose to live from a place of emotional honesty, your relationships will keep echoing the parts of you you've yet to heal. The people you attract will keep waking up the parts of you you've tried to avoid. That's not punishment. That's a reflection. And once you truly begin to align, not just intellectually, but energetically, everything begins to look and feel different. You move from attracting chaos to inviting peace. From drawing in games to recognizing clarity. From emotional hunger to real connection. You don't need to become perfect. You just need to become honest about what you've been carrying, what you're radiating, and what you've been unconsciously inviting into your life. Because once you do that, you'll see, it was never just about who showed up. It was always about who you were when they did. And the more whole you become, the more whole the love you attract will be. 3. No one can heal you but yourself. Healing doesn't come from a text message at midnight or someone saying they'll never leave. Healing begins in silence, in stillness, in the moment you stop running and finally turn inward. It's tempting to believe that if someone just loves us the right way, we'll finally feel whole. So we chase temporary highs, another date, another distraction, another notification that tricks us into thinking we're okay. But deep down, we know that no amount of external validation can fill the kind of emptiness that lives within. That truth hit me hard when I watched my cousin Josh unravel after a breakup. He kept himself busy with everything: gym, work, dates, playlists, parties. On the surface, he was doing great, but late at night, he couldn't escape himself. I remember him telling me, "I don't get it. I've done everything right, but I still feel empty. And that's because the one thing he avoided was the one thing that mattered. Sitting with the ache, not to numb it, but to understand it. His healing didn't start when someone new walked in. It began when he stopped looking outside and finally sat alone without distraction. That's where the real work starts, not in someone's arms, but in your own presence. If you've made it this far, I want to tell you something that may surprise you. You're not just listening, you're transforming. Most people turn off the moment the truth gets uncomfortable, but you're still here. That means you're choosing depth over distraction, clarity over comfort. And that's rare. So if no one has told you lately, I will. I see the strength it takes to face yourself. And I promise, this path leads somewhere powerful. The Stoics believed that the hardest journeys are the ones that build the strongest foundations. They taught us that external events are neutral, but our interpretations shape our peace. When you stop seeking people to soothe your insecurities and begin confronting them, you reclaim power over your emotional life. And that's what healing truly is. Not the absence of pain, but the willingness to feel it fully without needing anyone else to carry it for you. This isn't about becoming emotionally cold or closing your heart. It's about building an inner world so steady, so rooted, that love becomes a beautiful addition, not a desperate need. Because the truth is, if you rely on someone else to rescue you from your pain, you hand them control of your peace. And no one, no matter how kind, can hold that burden forever. Eventually, their absence will feel like a collapse, not because they were your whole world, but because you made them the only thing holding you up. The moment you stop outsourcing healing is the moment you begin to truly live. You develop emotional independence, not as a wall, but as a quiet strength. You learn to sit with discomfort without scrambling for a fix. You stop asking others to prove your worth because you've already chosen it for yourself. That's the shift, from waiting to be saved to becoming your own healer. And from that place, love transforms. It no longer shows up to fix you. It shows up to walk with you. It becomes peaceful, grounded, and free. The journey isn't linear. It's messy, often lonely, but always worth it. Keep going. There's more ahead, not just ideas, but real inner change. And one day, without warning, you'll look back and realize it didn't happen all at once. It happened every time you chose to stay with yourself instead of running. That's what healing looks like. That's what becoming whole feels like. And you're already on your way. 4. You're not lonely. You just haven't learned to be with yourself. Most people mistake quiet for a void, yet what they truly fear is meeting the unspoken parts of their own mind. A Saturday night without plans feels like exile, so they scroll through endless feeds, send late-night texts they will regret by morning, binge shows they barely like, all to drown out the hush that keeps whispering, there is more to confront than distraction can hide. But the moment you stop chasing the noise and sit in strategic stillness, you discover the silence is not hostile. It is simply a room you have never furnished with your presence. And the first minutes feel restless because your inner citadel has stood unattended for years. Still, if you breathe into that unease, the world around you begins to sharpen, colors deepen, sounds stretch into nuance. Because your senses finally have space to notice life instead of racing past it. I remember a sunset walk with no music, no phone, where the city's hum faded until each leaf brushing another sounded like a secret. And I realized I wasn't lonely. I was finally with myself. And that realization changed the texture of solitude from hollow to whole. Because self-companionship is the power of stillness the Stoics revered. The calm core from which an unshakable Stoic mindset grows. The inner peace Stoicism points toward when it teaches that you carry your tranquility wherever you go. Once you understand this, you see how every restless swipe for validation trains the brain to equate company with worth. Yet genuine worth flows from within. So cultivating daily Stoic habits for calm living, simple rituals like deep breathing before dawn, journaling your thoughts without judgment, walking slowly enough to notice the rhythm of your feet, builds self-trust. And as that trust roots itself, your relationships shift from being escape routes to becoming extensions of a grounded self. Because those who master becoming, not chasing, radiate ease, attracting people who value depth over drama. Think of it as tuning a radio. When your frequency is noisy with need, you pick up stations broadcasting the same static. When you refine the dial toward detachment the Stoic way, you receive clearer signals. Friendships, romances, even work alliances that resonate with your centered energy. This is how to stop chasing and attract success in love and life alike. By anchoring in the present, deciding that your own company is enough, then welcoming others not to patch emptiness but to share fullness. The paradox is liberating. The less you fear being alone, the richer your connections become. Because freedom from need invites authenticity, and authenticity is magnetic. Use this time alone as a training ground for stoicism, for self-growth, practicing actionable Stoic mindset practices such as negative visualization, imagining life without certain comforts so gratitude sharpens, or the evening review where you ask what you did well, where you slipped, and how you will improve tomorrow. These simple tools forge a self so complete that any partnership adds value without defining value. Remember, stillness philosophy is not about isolation. It is about alignment, about using stillness to make better decisions because you're no longer reacting from panic, but responding from clarity. So the next time silence settles around you, resist the reflex to escape. Open a window, feel the air, hear your own heartbeat marking time, and notice that the world has not abandoned you. Rather, it is inviting you to know yourself so thoroughly that you stop mistaking background noise for belonging. When you learn to sit comfortably in your own skin, you build a sanctuary no departure can destroy, and in that sanctuary you discover the profound why you attract what you become. Because peace seeks those who embody peace, depth finds those who cultivate depth, and love gravitates toward those who love their own solitude enough to share it without fear. 5. Don't seek love to be chosen. Love to share who you are. Most of us grow up believing that romance is a prize awarded to the most agreeable version of ourselves. So we learn to round off sharp edges, laugh at jokes we don't find funny, and nod along when sushi tastes like sea-salted regret. All because we're terrified of being left off someone else's shortlist. Yet the moment love becomes an audition, authenticity exits the stage, and performance takes its place. You can feel the tension in every conversation. You hesitate before sharing an opinion, calculate each text, rehearse every good morning so it sounds breezy instead of needy. And though the act may win a smile today, it slowly drains the soul tomorrow. Stoic mindset wisdom offers a radical alternative. Stop chasing, start becoming. In other words, live in accordance with your own nature, not the ever-shifting expectations of others. When you practice daily Stoic habits for calm living, such as morning reflection and evening review, you fortify a sense of self that cannot be bartered for approval. You discover the power of stillness, that strategic stillness in which you hear your own voice more clearly than any applause. And once you recognize that your worth is inherent, not transactional, you can finally love to share who you are, not to be stamped, accepted. Imagine two trees. One grows tall because it stretches toward sunlight, the other twists unnaturally to avoid overshadowing its neighbor. The first stands strong, the second eventually cracks under its own distortion. People who bend their needs to be chosen are the second tree. They date with a subtle ache, wondering why the connection feels hollow even when a relationship looks perfect on Instagram. But inner peace, Stoicism teaches that genuine connection flows only from wholeness. When you choose yourself first, honoring your tastes, opinions, ambitions, you signal to the world that your love is an extension of surplus, not a request for validation. This Stoic way is not indifference, it's grounded self-trust. It says, I value partnership, yet I refuse to compromise my core. And that unshakable stance is magnetic because authenticity is rare in a marketplace flooded with curated personas. So, how do you reach that state? Begin with actionable Stoic mindset practices. Spend 5 silent minutes each dawn cultivating stillness philosophy. Breathe, observe thoughts drift by, name emotions without judgment. Use that pause to remind yourself, I am already complete. Throughout the day, test your alignment by speaking one honest sentence where you would normally placate. In the evening, write a brief note asking whether your words mirrored your convictions. If not, Note how you'll adjust tomorrow. These small acts build what Stoics called the inner citadel, a fortress of self-respect that withstands rejection and praise alike. Over time, you notice something surprising. The more you honor your truth, the more effortlessly you attract companionship that mirrors it. That is how to stop chasing and attract success in love, by becoming non-chasing. When love finally arrives, it feels different. Conversations flow without the internal censor. Disagreements become dialogues, not battles. And affection grows precisely because neither party is performing. You wake up beside someone who knows you dislike tuna rolls and loves you anyway. This is why you attract what you become. Authenticity begets authenticity. And even if a relationship ends, you remain intact because your identity was never collateral. That resilience is a gift you give both to yourself and to every future partner, freeing them from the impossible task of completing what was never missing. In the long arc of Stoicism for modern life transformation, this is the enduring lesson. Choose yourself first, share your fullness boldly, and let love be the echo of a self already at peace. 6. The more you try to keep someone, the more you lose yourself. Picture a fist closing around dry sand. Every instinct screams to hold tighter, yet each grain escapes faster. And that is exactly how compelled affection behaves, because the harder you grip a relationship, the quicker its authenticity evaporates. You begin with genuine care, then, almost imperceptibly, concern mutates into control as you text twice to be sure, reread replies for hidden meaning, adjust punctuation so you do not sound too much. Meanwhile, your own life shrinks to fit the small square of someone else's availability, workouts skipped, friends postponed, passions shelved, all in the name of constant readiness. Yet no amount of vigilance can guarantee permanence. It only guarantees exhaustion. What most people miss is that love rarely departs when you set boundaries. Instead, it flees when a partner must shoulder two identities, their own and the tailored persona you adopt to avoid conflict. Stoic mindset wisdom calls for detachment, not as emotional coldness, but as crystal clarity. Stop chasing, start becoming. When you practice stillness philosophy, you realize that true connection cannot be forced by frantic checking or strategic self-erasure. It thrives in an atmosphere of mutual respect, spaciousness, and inner peace, where each person stands whole. Daily Stoic habits for calm living. Rising early for a moment of strategic stillness, writing a quick reflection on where you overextended yesterday, choosing silence over spiraling thoughts. Build an inner citadel that no amount of outside turbulence can breach. From this grounded place, you make better decisions because you are no longer fueled by panic. Instead, you respond, you do not react, proving the power of stillness to safeguard both intimacy and individuality. Actionable Stoic mindset practices such as negative visualization remind you that even cherished bonds are mortal, which paradoxically deepens appreciation while loosening unhealthy grip. For when you glimpse loss in advance, you value presence without demanding permanence. The Stoic way teaches that what is aligned will remain without coercion, because authentic affection is drawn to freedom, not to captivity. So if you find yourself monitoring messages and sacrificing sleep to decode silence, pause and breathe into becoming, not chasing. Remind yourself why you attract what you become, and choose to embody trust rather than tension. Ask, am I holding space for two souls, or am I slowly dissolving mine? Then act. Reclaim one routine you abandoned, perhaps a run at dawn, a guitar riff at dusk, and feel how that simple reclamation dilutes the desperation that once stained your interactions. Over time, these micro-choices forge a self anchored in self-worth. The more rooted you become, the less you fear that someone's departure could uproot you, because your foundation no longer lies in their presence, but in your own. This is how to stop chasing and attract success in love. By treating your energy as a scarce resource and investing it first in alignment, letting connection flow as a dividend, not a bailout. If they stay, it is by choice, not obligation. If they leave, you grieve yet remain intact. Ultimately, the lesson is straightforward, though never easy. Loosen the fist, feel the sand settling gently in an open palm, and observe that what settles by itself was always meant for you, while what the wind carries away frees you to stand taller, lighter, and more authentically yourself. When you love yourself enough, the entire rhythm of your life shifts. You stop chasing what was never meant for you and begin attracting the kind of love that mirrors your growth, not your gaps. Emotional independence, calm living, and daily alignment create a presence that feels grounded and magnetic. This is the power of becoming, not begging. As you embrace a Stoic mindset and build your inner peace, relationships no longer feel like lifelines. They become reflections of who you've chosen to be. So take these lessons and live them. Revisit them often. Practice stillness. Walk with clarity. And most of all, share your story. Your journey may be the very thing someone else needs to hear. Leave a comment below. Tell us what part spoke to you most. And if this message stirred something inside you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Your growth deserves a space to keep unfolding.